Payday 2 turns 9 years old this year, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to be far more casual with how I play the game. Time had passed years ago when I used to be very, very good at every difficulty in Payday 2. There's often footage to prove it from the 2017-2018 time. When I first got into Payday 2 content, I did a lot of Death Sentence 1 down. I played it to death, loud and stealth, and was really, really good at it. But that time has long since passed. I am no good at that difficulty anymore, and to be honest with you, I don't really care to improve again. Payday 2 has become that kind of game where I'm super casual, and I really just enjoy going in, having a fun time in a heist, and not really caring about the difficulty too much, because I'm just there for a good time. So with that in mind, I'm going to give you my most modern and up-to-date version of my favourite build that I use in Payday 2. I've done a few versions of this video over the last few years, but this is what I'm going to title it this time. It is the Payday 2 Filthy Casual build, because it's the term I always use to describe myself. It's also a build I would describe as very accessible, so if you happen to be newer to Payday 2 and you kind of are a bit confused by the metas right now and think, I don't really know the best way to play this game, this is a good build to make that will work on any difficulty that's of the lower band. It's not really built for Death Sentence 1 down. You could probably use it on Death Wish at a push, but it's mainly aimed for Mayhem and below. It is for casuals after all, that is the whole point of it. So if you are a newer player for Payday 2, this might be the one for you. And for the console players out there, I'd like to let everyone know that this build is designed with both PC and console players in mind. So while with console there might be certain differences with what guns are available and that kind of thing, the very core framework of this build and how it all works will apply to both PC and console players. So anyone playing Payday 2 on Xbox One, PlayStation 4 and PC, and I think Nintendo Switch as well, should all be able to get the same kind of build out of this video. So I hope that's helpful to all of you. So I'm going to break down the build in this video, talk you through the skills, the perk deck, the gun options, and give you some gameplay, and just share my general thoughts on the build, the way I used to do my old build videos. And if you'd like to see me do more of these in the future, do let me know. And very quickly, special thanks to Zavvi and Pop in a Box for sponsoring this video. I'll have more details on what they do at the end of the video, so feel free to listen to that at the very end. Some cool links and discount codes available. But either way, let's get right into the video and start off by rolling the intro. So here we are in my inventory, and to start this explanation off, I want to give a general description of the gist of this build, and I can sum it up in 3 words: spray and pray. To me, this build is one that, as I've said, ignores all of the metas. It doesn't matter if you shoot the cop in the head, the stomach, the toe. It doesn't matter what kind of concealment you're going for, what detection risk, what dodge chance you've got, what crit hits. None of that is even factored into this. It's focusing on full auto weaponry, that being assault rifles, light machine guns, and submachine guns, used in any combination, depends on how you want to use them. In the current layout of the build, I've got an LMG, and I've got an SMG. You could have an assault rifle and an SMG, it doesn't really matter too much. But let's start off first by exploring the skills, and before anyone goes in and says, oh, you've picked the wrong skill here, or you should have done this, let's not have any of that. What I want in the comments is for you to say, okay, this build looks quite similar to what I would do, but I'd change this. Offer some suggestions up so people can look in the comments and see if there's other ideas they might like to incorporate and adapt this build into how they play, because I'm not too bothered about this being the perfect skill structure. There are definitely points here that could be moved around very, very easily, but please remember this is a build for lower difficulties, so you don't really need to overthink where every single skill point goes to the same extent you might do for a high difficulty, super meta Payday 2 build. It's meant to be more casual, if you get the point. So let's break down the skills overall, and I'll just talk about the most key points, because I'm not going to go through every single skill. It's really not worth it. In the Mastermind section of the skills, we've got Basic Combat Medic, Aced Quick Fix, Aced Combat Doctor, and Aced Inspire, as well as Basic Stable Shot and Basic Rifleman. In Enforcer, we've got Basic Resilient, Basic Transporter, as well as Basic Scavenger, and Aced Bulletstorm, Extra Lead, and Fully Loaded. Looking in Technician, Basic Hardware Expert, as well as Basic Fire Control and Lock and Load, and we've got Drill Sergeant, Steady Grip, Surefire, and Body Expertise Aced. In the Ghost subtree, we've got Duck and Cover Basic, Parkour Aced, and in Fugitive we've got 9 Lives and Swan Song Aced. Now, one thing I need to say is that for anyone who is newer to the game and might be looking to this for a build, you might find some of these skills aren't unable to be accessed. You might struggle to get to the Inspire skill, for example, based on the way I've assigned these points. When you go Infamous for the very first time, it makes the skills a little bit more affordable. It reduces the point values by 10%, so I believe it takes 18 points to get to the top of this skill tree, rather than the 16 you see in the top left corner. So if you aren't Infamy 1 yet, you may struggle a little bit to get the points to work in the same way. You may have to move things around a little bit, so please bear that in mind. Once you're Infamy 1 and above though, it's not a problem. And you might have noticed by now I am making this video at level 100. I haven't got Infamous yet, because I wanted to give the most complete version of this build as possible. Doesn't mean you need all 100 points. There are easily, like I've said, things you could ignore here or move around. It's a very loose idea. So let's talk about some of my choices here and why I've picked this. So my main key standout skills here are going to be the Inspire skill, Fully Loaded, Body Expertise, and also Swan Song. They're the 4 skills that immediately jump right out to me and say, these are the things that matter the most for my build and my playstyle. One skill I would consider getting as well, possibly if you're interested, and it's one I used to have in an older version of this build, is Ace Jack of all trades, because that can allow you to bring 2 of one deployable and 1 of another, so 2 doctor bags, 1 ammo bag, whatever you might want to do. I used to have that, I don't anymore, but it is something I could get if I wanted to rejig some points around. But for me, when I play Payday 2, more often than not these days, I play privately, because usually I'm either getting gameplay or I'm recording solo stealths and things like that, and I don't really bother too much with public lobbies. I am much happier hosting my own lobby with AI backing me up. That does not mean I won't play public lobbies. If you've seen me stream on Twitch, you know I do invite viewers to play with me constantly when I'm not doing solo stealths. It's good fun. I don't mind either way. But what this build is designed to be is a self-sufficient build. It's one that you can go into Payday 2, and regardless if you're playing with other people or yourself, with AI, without AI, this build will hold and it will keep you good, especially on lower difficulties. I mean, on lower difficulties, as I've said, you don't need to think too much about your build because the chances of you surviving are much higher. But it's nice to have a build that does work on decent difficulties, and I've tried this out on Mayhem and it works really well. And like I've said, you could probably push it to Deathwish and make it work as well if you were good enough for the game. I don't really see a problem there. And that's why Inspire's there, because I do sometimes play with other crew members available, whether it be AI or human players. If you're playing solo and you're not that bothered about having to go up and hold revive on a crew member, you can get rid of Inspire immediately. You might not need it. This is one of those builds where you might actually not need it that much, and you could go without it. The next one, like I said, is fully loaded. This one I like a lot because it's very much the self-sufficient skill. Not only do you get more ammo overall, but you also pick up more ammo from the boxes that police officers drop. And the ammo pickup rate on a lot of the guns I use is pretty solid anyway, but throwing this into the mix, as well as some of the team AI boosts I'll get to in a minute, you're picking up ammo very, very quickly. You'll see in the gameplay section later I'm using the newest LMG from the McShay weapon pack. I never run out of ammo with it because I've got so many different ammo skills going at the same time that I'm always picking up bullets. And if at any point, for any reason, I really am using too much ammo, I've only got to walk over a few ammo boxes and I'm back to full ammo. It's just a really nice feeling. You probably don't need to push it as far as I have, but I like doing it anyway. It feels very powerful. And again, it's that arcadey, lower difficulty fun feel that I go for with this build. In the process, you get extra lead, which means that you can bring 2 ammo bags into a heist. So you can go into any heist going, well, do I want 2 doctor bags? Do I think I might die occasionally? Or do I want 2 ammo bags? Do I think I might be chewing through ammo a bit too much? You've got that flexibility, and it's a really beautiful thing. But Technician is where the real important skill comes into mind. Body expertise. Without this skill, you don't have the build. I would honestly argue that Surefire and Body Expertise are the 2 most important skills here. The idea is it's spray and pray. It's run and gun. And as I said to you, it doesn't matter where you shoot a police officer. Now, quite often with a lot of builds, headshots are king because you could use a shotgun. You could use something with high crit damage. You could go for something with the Enforcer skill where you get damage or health back, I should say, per headshot. That kind of thing is very big in the Payday 2 meta. But for me, I've never been interested in that. I've never been interested in having to think about where I'm shooting the police officer. I just kind of go, you know what? I'm just going to pull the trigger and hope for the best. It's how I play the game. And this skill allows 90% of headshot damage to be applied to hitting anywhere on the body. And that's why it's so beautiful. I absolutely love it. And I should note, I never mentioned miniguns. It does mention special weapons in automatic fire mode. That being miniguns can also be used with this, and it does work beautifully. So it's worth bringing one of those if you fancy really packing a punch in a lower difficulty heist. But this is why I love the build, because it is literally just spray and pray. And that's what's so beautiful about it. You get to put that very low effort into the game and still have a great amount of fun. And that's what's so good about it. That's why I love it so much. Having Surefire Race gives you a bit more bullets in the mag and also allows you to pierce through body armor. That is very important. And then just being able to hit fire the weapons while sprinting is beautiful. And I didn't mention it specifically, but combining it with Parkour Aced allows you to sprint in any direction and run and reload. So you never have to stop running, whether you're firing, reloading, anything. It is very much on the move. It's a great build for that. And then finally, we have our Swan Song. Now, Swan Song is a skill that I use in almost every single loud build, if not every single loud build realistically. For 6 seconds after you are meant to go down, you get to move at a 60% slower speed and fire with infinite ammo. You don't lose your ammunition. You can just spray and pray into a crowd of cops. If you've only got 3 bullets left in your magazine and you get down, all of a sudden you've got a full mag again for 6 seconds and it doesn't deplete until you go down properly. And that's beautiful about this. It's a really cool thing to clear a bit of a room if you think, oh, you know what, I could risk going down just to clear a room. Or if you think you want a final stance, try and clear the area before someone comes to revive you. It's handy in a bunch of different ways, and that's why I love it. I think it's a really, really good skill to have. And again, it adds to that arcadey feeling, and it's what I love about it. But that's the skill section. Let's look now more generally at the other things in the build. So we have got the Grinder perk deck. As I said, there are probably other perk decks you could use, but this perk deck for me is perfect. This does unfortunately require DLC. You need to have the so-called character pack to get to this. You might as well get the Ultimate Edition of Payday 2 while you're at it, because it's a much cheaper deal overall if you have the money to afford it. If not, just grab the so-called character pack. It's all you need for this. But this basically gives you, if you don't already know, the ability to regenerate health for every bit of damage you deal to cops. So the more damage you deal, the more health you're getting back. And that's why I love this build, because with full auto fast firing weapons like LMGs, you're dealing a lot of damage to cops quickly. And if you read it properly, it says that damaging an enemy heals 4 life points every 0.3 seconds for 4.2 seconds. It's every time you damage an enemy. So if you have a high fire rate weapon, you're going to heal very, very quickly. So you want that fast firing full auto weapon to really make the most of Grinder, and that's why it works so well with this. It is honestly beautiful, and I wouldn't pick a different perk deck personally, but like I've said, you might be able to make it work with something else like Anarchist from the Sydney character pack or anything else in between. For crew management, I have picked a couple of perks here that you might find useful. I've got Inspiring for my crew so they can shout me up every 2 minutes if I've got 3 II if I go down. I've got Quick for faster interaction speed, again getting around faster, and Piercing so they can pierce armor and shields. It's very nice. For the boost itself, we've got Invigorator, which is 50 more stamina and armor speed penalty is reduced by 50%. You've all then got the Accelerator, players reload 50% and swap weapons 50% faster, and also Reinforcer, players' health increased by 60. These are just optional, it depends on what you want to get, but these are the ones that I go for. The one I would give a special shout out to also is Sharp-Eyed, which is a crew ability. There's only 4 to pick from. I left Sharp-Eyed out. As I said, with the skills I've got, I'm picking up ammo very quickly. To be honest, I actually thought I had this equipped, I won't lie to you. So in the gameplay, I'm picking up ammo even faster than I presumed. Beyond that, I've got the Viper Grenade Throwable. This is again from the new DLC, the McShay weapon pack, but you can bring anything else you want to. I brought this because it's very good for dealing good area of effect damage and getting me a lot of grinder health back. You'll see that in the gameplay. The melee weapon is entirely up to you. That depends on what you want to bring, and beyond that you can bring doctor bags or ammo bags, but I would bring the 2-piece suit for your armor. You can either bring the 2-piece suit or the lightweight ballistic vest, but I don't see why you bother with the lightweight ballistic vest. For me, Grinder is just best for 2-piece suit, best movement speed, and the extra armor isn't really worth it in my opinion for that build. That's just me personally though. Finally, to close off with the weapons, again, it's up to you. Again, I'm using a new DLC gun. I recently cleared out all my Payday 2 guns because I had no idea where anything was, so I'm in the middle of adding them back in again. But any assault rifle that you add here, so I've got, for instance, a Car 4 rifle, an AK, I've got the new Verstect 51D LMG, anything like that. So if you go to anything in the assault rifle section, in the LMG section, which I've just gone past because I'm blind, or the Akimbo SMG section, that works too. You might want to get some Akimbo skills if you use them. For instance, in Fugitive, you've got the Equilibrium skill leads you to this, Akimbo. Acing that is useful if you use Akimbo SMGs. Or the Fugitive perk deck, you won't get the grinder boosts, but you will get better skills for your Akimbo weapons, so that is an option. And then for my secondary, I'm bringing the Uzi submachine gun, which is again DLC you can see for Hotline Miami, but there are plenty of free guns you can bring along. For here, you only want to bring a submachine gun, because in the specials, as far as I can remember, yeah, I don't think there's any full auto ones here that really work. I don't think the MA-17 flamethrower counts. I'm not sure it counts for body expertise, but someone can prove me wrong in the comments if that's the case. I don't think it does though. But submachine guns are where you want to go here. And it's up to you what you bring. A lot of DLC, but there are plenty you can make work. Something like the Krinkov is free and has very good stats. In fact, you compare it to what I've got right now, it's got better damage and better rate of fire. So even though it's got less ammo, the DPS is higher. So you can make it work. There are different guns you can use here, and it is down to personal preference. These are just 2 examples of guns that I bring into the gameplay, and they're the ones I use in the gameplay in this video. Again though, that's totally up to you. But I feel like I've been talking for a very long time, so we're going to roll in some gameplay now, and I'm going to give my overall final thoughts on the build. So here we go. Here's some footage of me in Big Bang tearing up the police force with the filthy casual build. And here we are with the gameplay. So let me give my final thoughts on this build and give my general advice on how I roll this and just what I think of it as a big thing for new Payday 2 players, people looking to be a bit more casual like me. So as I've said, this is focused on spray and pray. Everything in this build in particular is designed in such a way that you will not need to go for a specific meta. You don't need to aim for a certain part on the cops. You don't need to really bring a certain gun. You've got 3 different weapon classes, very unique weapon classes in a lot of senses, that you can bring in any combination to make this build work. And that's why it's so beautiful. If you're someone who goes into this and goes, oh, I don't really fancy full auto weapons, then this build might not be for you. In fact, let's be honest, it isn't for you. I think the only downside is it just doesn't appeal to the hardcore players out there. If you're out there and you say, I play everything on Death Sentence 1 down, anything less isn't a challenge, and I don't care for anything that's not a challenge, you are perfectly valid. I am friends with people like that. So there is definitely an audience out there who won't really appreciate this build and will have their criticisms and go, I can't believe he's done this, he's done that. But that's the thing, it's that kind of build where it's not really meant for those people anyway. You know what I mean? It's meant to be for the casual player or for the new player. I know a lot of what I've picked is DLC oriented, and I'm very, very sorry for that. But again, like I've said, you can usually make this work without DLC. I think the only time I would definitely cave for this is to get the Sokol pack for Grinder. Grinder feels like the biggest part of this that is kind of DLC, non-DLC, and I think if you don't have Grinder, unless you can make it work with a different perk deck, you're going to feel the differences. I think that is an important part of this build, and I would definitely consider getting that DLC if you don't already. But just to be a bit sneaky, for the first person who gets to this part in the video, I'm going to drop on screen a code for the Payday 2 Ultimate Edition, which does include the Sokol character packs. If you don't already have it, there's a chance to grab it. Whoever gets it, have fun with it. Just thought I'd slide that in there because I had a few codes spare, why not? But as you can see from the gameplay, I'm playing on Mayhem difficulty. On my streams these days, I tend to play Overkill a lot. I did get a bit of judgment at the start. I got a few people saying, are you really only playing on Overkill difficulty? Why is that? And I just kind of said, you know what? I'm past caring. And what I really love is that there are days in the past where the Payday community would properly judge people for that, but at least the people who are playing, or watching me play, I should say, are not really critical anymore. They don't seem to care, and I think there is definitely an audience out there of people who just want to play the game casually and don't care for the metas, and I'm your guy for that. I'm there, and honestly, that's the build I think that is really good for this. I think it's good for console as well as PC, as I mentioned earlier. This is a build that will work on both platforms. That's what's great about it. Whether you're on console and you have unfortunately been left behind by DLC, or whether you're on PC and you've got all this stuff overwhelming you and all these metas and terms and all this, it's a good way to just kind of get into it and chill. And I think that I've organised the skill points in such a way that it makes it accessible. You don't need every single skill I've got on that board. You can kind of tell from my descriptions I was kind of going, you know, this is why I've got this, but it's not super important. As long as you can get body expertise, the rest will follow suit eventually. Once you're about level 30, 40, you can make it work and you can just keep improving the build as time goes by. And that's what's so good about it. You don't need to be a high level. You don't need to be a really good player. You don't need to be aiming for a certain thing in Payday 2. You can just go in, have fun, and get out again. And that's what's so good about this build. But that sums up my thoughts on the Payday 2 Filthy Casual build. Now, if you guys wouldn't mind for a second, I'd like to talk about the sponsors of this video, that being Pop in a Box and Zavvi. Two parts of the Hulk group that have been very, very lovely to me recently and are companies that I actually use a lot before the sponsorships even happened. So I really don't mind doing this promotion for them because they're companies that I use a lot. Let's start off first with Pop in a Box. As a lot of you might know by this point, I collect a lot of Funko Pop vinyls. I'm a huge collector of them. I love them to bits. And I'm going to do a room tour very, very soon, aiming to get out this weekend. I keep saying it's coming out, but I honestly am hoping to get out this weekend now. But I own a lot of them, and I'll explain a bunch of the different ones that are really unique to me in that video, and I'll talk about them in more detail there. It'll be good fun. And Pop in a Box is a site that I use a lot to buy them because it's a site that pretty much just sells those things. And they got in touch recently and asked if they could send me a few pops every now and again to promote them. So here are a few of the most recent pops that I got that I opened on stream. You can see some footage here from my most recent VOD that I was opening them, talking them through them. They've sent some really cool stuff over to me, and in return, they give you guys a discount code and also a link to use. So if you're interested in buying any pop vinyls, you want to check out their site, you can use the link in the description to go and check out the site and use the code RALPIAB, that's Red Archer Live Pop in a Box, RALPIAB, to get 10% off in-stock items, 5% off pre-orders, and 15% off their monthly subscription service, which is definitely something you should check out if you're interested in getting regular monthly pops from the company, or twice a month. I think it varies depending on subscription, but there's some really good options there. And then over to Zavvi, they are a pop culture website that don't just have pop vinyls, they've got all sorts of stuff. They've got video game merch, they've got clothing, they've got board games, they've got models, they've got replicas, they've got about everything you could dream of. If you're a nerdy person, that is the site for you. But every month they send me a box that I open up on stream at twitch.tv/RedArcherLive. Most recently, they sent me some stuff for my mum, which I thought was absolutely lovely. And if you want to check out any of the stuff that I get, check out those streams. But if you want to check out the site, anything they offer, there's honestly so much on there, you could really have a great time. The link is in the description, and you can use the following 3 codes this time to get yourself some neat discounts. RAL10 will get you 10% off site-wide, RAL20 will get you 20% off clothing specifically, and RALLEGO will get you 10% off Lego products. You can only use one code at any one time, so use the best one to fit your transaction, and also bear in mind that some exclusions do apply. But thank you very much to all the people over there that are hooking this stuff up with me and getting me to promote them. I honestly don't mind doing this stuff. Like I've said before, if I do promotions, it's usually going to be things that I actually care about, because otherwise, what's the point in promoting it? But with that being said, I'm going to bring an end to this video. So if you have enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. And make sure you drop a subscribe if you are new, because if you're coming back to watch these videos and you're not already subscribed, why not? It's free, and you can keep in contact with all the videos that I do going forward. But apart from that, thank you all very much for watching. I will see you all next time with a brand new video. Until then, look after yourselves, stay safe, and I will see you all soon.